attending the meeting. Operation Shield is a property marking operation done by Cheshire Constabulary. It's to prevent burglaries, and if a burglary does happen, to identify those responsible and retrieve the property. Hamforth Parish Council provided us with £2,000 worth of funding last year. We're currently 50 kits into 193 that I need to go door to door delivering. The area that's been chosen was the Woodlands Road area, Hall Road area. The aim is, if we can get more funding from possibly the council or other sources, we obviously would like to get it as all over Hamforth. If we can get the funding, that's what the aim will be. The summer agenda. Summer agenda is what we look at every year to deal with antisocial behaviour over the summer period. Touch wood, for the most part, our youth in the area are reasonably well behaved, but they do get bored over the summer period. We'll be working with the youth service and other agencies to try and provide diversionary activities for young people over the summer holidays to try and keep antisocial behaviour down. We will also be getting in extra patrols on key dates that we've identified. If yourselves know of any key dates, if anyone's got a massive birthday coming up, if anyone thinks anyone's planning a rave over the summer holidays, let me know. I'd rather know about it than be surprised. And we can ask for extra patrols on those dates. The last thing I want to mention is the active citizenship. This is a new scheme that Cheshire Police are setting up, which is basically a very fancy way of saying volunteers. But what we're looking at is key people within the community. The way I want to run in Hamforth, some 7-8 years ago, we used to have something called Hamforth Works, and it was built up of all the key members or key representatives from the community, churches, schools, local council, Emerson's, housing, basically one person from each place as a representative, so we can all, one thing we've never lacked in Hamforth is volunteers and people wanting to do things for the community. The struggle usually is getting everyone pulling in the same direction, so hopefully regular meetings will make that a lot easier. One of the things I'd like to, for the first couple of active citizens we get, is to nominate someone to potentially chair the meetings and give us all a kick up the backside and then get us to the meetings on time. So that's ongoing. If anyone's interested or you think anyone might be, contact myself, or Ashley has all my contact details as well. That is it.
Many thanks. Again. Any comments from councillors?
Yeah, we should be.
The second meeting, everybody, so the final meeting with the legislative planning and the environment meeting. So if anybody wants to go away for that, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll have to.
So we're on this page He's a coward.
Yeah, planning.
Let's go. I can smell
In the wrong year then.
Yeah, you defer the chair as well. Sorry, just I don't fucking this plan.
It's a bit of a warm night, except for this.
Okay, everybody? Okay, we're starting the Planning and Environment Committee meeting. The first thing we have to do, I think, is to
Elect chair.
well, do we want to do apologies for absence votes for elected chair? Elected chair.
Let's elect chair.
Elected chair. Would you like to propose a chair for the Planning and Environment Committee?
I'll propose Ryan, as he sat in the chair already.
Second?
Are we all in favour?
All for. Okay, so we're all here, aren't we?
Yes.
Any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. I have one. I have a personal interest in 1913-5, which is the planning application 19/1797M, the demolition of 15 Hampton Crescent and diversion and culverting of Dobbin Brook. And I also have a predetermined and biased on that, as I've actually been out campaigning. There's quite a few people will tell you. Okay.
You can't take part.
No, I can't.
An interest, very interested in 1913-5.
Okay.
Or was it a personal one?
I've campaigned against it. Also, I've got to redetermination bias.
I was just going to say, Chairman, you're not actually making a decision here. You're making a recommendation to the Cheshire East. So really, declaring an interest is, well, you can declare an interest, but it's not binding on you because you're not actually sitting in and making the actual final decision. So my suggestion is that, all right, declare an interest, a personal interest in it, because you've worked hard on getting all the objections in. But because you're not making their final decision, there's no reason for you to go out.
Well, you know more about plannings and planning committee in this room, so.
You can certainly just go and vote on it.
Because it's
Not a personal financial interest.
yeah.
Bias.
It isn't it's a delegated item. Yeah. It's a delegated item to the officers to decide, because they won't allow us to call it in, which is another disgrace. But anyway, there's so much interest in this application, and that's one of the criteria actually for calling in an item. Well, yes, when there's so much public interest in it. But as the decision stands at the moment, it's not being called in. It's still with the officer, and there are multiple reasons really why we should be allowed to have it called in. So that argument is still going on, and it was the previous chairman of the committee, who is now gone, who decided not to call it in. And we're now awaiting a new chairman of that planning.
Is there a chance a new chair could
So that may be, yeah. The officers have written back and saying it's a very similar thing to the development application to what was already been decided, but it isn't. It's far different. We're using a different road, and there's a big reason why you shouldn't use that road.
So as far as councillors on this committee...
As far as councillors, my recommendation from what I know about planning is that because you're not making the decision, you've got no, as the clerk says, we've got no financial interest in it, except I suppose if you own a house down Circuit Road, and don't think
I think just off
just off Circuit Road.
So, and it's on the side, that's why I'm
But
predetermined
everybody,
and biased.
yeah, it's,
I don't want it to go.
no, yeah, but
Okay.
You've
So
declared
I
an
will-
interest,
I
and
will
you,
stick
and you,
that,
and you
yes.
can not vote if you don't want to. That's absolutely
Right,
fine.
okay.
but you,
And you're the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
legally, you'll be okay. Right.
The next item is the open forum, but there are 3 planning applications. I think 2 of them are probably not controversial. I'm going to ask if anybody wants to speak on any planning application other than the Clay Lane Sagars Road one. There's one for the care village at the far end of the road. Does anybody wish to speak on that? And the other one is an extension building in Ollerton Road. Does anybody wish to speak on that? Is anybody- Okay, in that case we'll deal with those 2 planning applications and get them out of the way quickly, then we can have the open forum on the Clay Lane application and deal with that afterwards. So that's like a continuous conversation, isn't it? Okay, so can we move on to the care village? There's a proposal to change what they call the core building, which is right in the centre of the care village on the road. It doesn't appear to me that it makes any difference to what the village will look like from the outside looking in. So it seems to be kind of like an internal measure altogether. Anybody got anything in the public to say on that? Just one.
Roger Small, I live right next door to this development. As the chair has said, I think changes to the building itself, the core building, are of little consequence because when the buildings all around it go up, it won't be visible to any of the current near neighbours. What does slightly concern me is the proposal to move a pond from that central core area to an area quite adjacent to the grounds of Hanforth Hall. Now that makes good ecological sense because Hanforth Hall ponds are believed to be or to have a colony of great crested newts, and moving the pond nearer to the grounds of Hanforth Hall therefore does make good ecological sense. But at the same time, I would not like to see further tree felling going on to accommodate that pond. So I think we ought to make, or council ought to make that point to the developers. They've already done some dreadful things to the southernmost hedgerow at the end of Hall Road. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large gaps in that hedge now, and that hedge is largely protected under the neighbourhood plan. Nevertheless, several gaps have been carved through it, and the chopping down of mature trees has occurred at both the western end and at the eastern end of that track at the end of Hall Road.
And the middle.
And the middle, yes, that's true.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say, Chair, that given that the application's a modification to the already agreed design, I'm not opposed to it, with the proviso that the ponds meet the conditions set out in the application. Because sometimes they tend to change at the last minute.
And also taking what Mr. Small has said as well about making sure the trees are, no more trees are knocked down.
So anything? Okay, anything to add?
No, I just concur with everything.
Okay, I presume we're all in agreement with all that. Yes, I'm sure that's
With the proviso.
Oh, the fire, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the extension of that building in Ollerton Road, I haven't had an opportunity to go around and have a look at it myself. Anybody else has it? Any comments? Looking at Google Maps, the outbuilding is kind of against the boundary of the property, and there's a sizable gap from that boundary to the next house. So we probably have no grounds to make it a sort of adverse comment or anything. Okay, so we have
No objections? No objections.
I didn't see any objections on the website.
No.
Show of hands, are we all good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go back to the agreement.
Yes, this committee can. Yes, yes, that's precedent from the last council. Yeah.
Okay, well, take Grant's advice on that. We can accept the minutes of the last meeting even though none of us was there.
You can just accept them without a vote and just say yes, hands up and we're all good. Yeah?
Okay.
Hands up, no? Want to say it? Yeah?
Still unsure
Still unsure.
as to what I'm agreeing to.
Take your advice.
Right. So now we go on to the open forum on the CS 49, the Clay Lane, Seagulls Road. Who's going to speak first?
Okay, I would like to say some words on CS 49. As the Chair will remember, when we attended the actual meeting with Alwyn and Turley, during that meeting...
Just for everybody's benefit, excuse me, Mike, this is the meeting that was spoken of earlier when the developers Annual Holdings invited members of the council to an explanation of what they were going to be applying for. This is about 6 weeks ago. Attended by Annual and a consultant from Times, I think it was.
Turley.
And that was attended by Mike Thompson and myself. Sorry.
And Bill.
But are we discussing the actual Seagrass Road access or?
Yes, yes.
Right, okay.
That was a meeting with them.
Okay.
Okay. During this meeting, they actually said that they would consider limiting the construction traffic time between 9:30 a.m. to 3:30ish because of the children going to school and coming home from school, as a means of placating our concerns that we raised in the meeting.